Hello everyone, this is Manohar Reddy, Department of Cyber Security, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I am going to discuss about the question bank of handshake protocol implementation. Handshake protocol implementation. So, what is meant by handshake protocol and how it helps to provide communication between client and the server? So here, handshake protocol, it is a most complex part of TLS, that is nothing but transport layer security. Transport layer security. So the most complex part of transport layer security is what? Handshake protocol. Transport layer security is what most handshake protocol, which is very important for communicating both client and server. So to develop applications, to access applications from server, we have to initiate the communication between client and the server. So to communicating the purpose of client and the server and accessing the applications, the handshake protocol will allows the different types of messages to communicate. So how that all the messages are to be communicating? So all that messages are called as handshake messages. And the protocol which is implemented for the communication of both client and the server is called as handshake protocol, which is the higher part of security part of transport layer security. So here, what this protocol allows actually. So this protocol allows the server and the client to authenticate each other. So before communicating both client and the server, those two are authenticating. First of all, they have to authenticate each other and negotiate an encryption and MAC algorithm and cryptographic keys to be used to protect data. So in between the two persons, they have to make a conversation with privacy or privacy. They have to encrypt their conversation, right? So at the same way, here the client and the server can communicate both. Because of the encryption, they are maintaining a privacy. Because of the encryption process, because of the cryptographic keys they are providing, they are maintaining privacy and authentication as well as. So here, the different types of encryption algorithms, MAC algorithms, message authentication code algorithms, and the cryptographic keys is to be used to protect data. The handshake protocol is used before an application data is transmitted. So the handshake protocol is used before any application data is transmitted. So the client is here and the server is here. So if any request is made in the client, the client automatically connected to the server to get the response for that request. But before giving the response from the server has to communicate with the client. The server has to communicate with the client, as well as client also communicate with the server. So before they are communicating, they have to authenticate. If and only if those two, client and the server, authenticated, then only the possible of data transmission in between both client and the server. So without authentication of those two, they are not able to transfer the data, or they are not able to process the request and responses. So the handshake protocol consists of a series of messages. So from the starting of the request generated by the client, at the ending of the response is generated by the server, in between them, they are maintaining communication with a series of messages. A lot of messages they have to converge. So series of messages exchanged by the client and the server. So client initiate the connection, server responds with the connection, and the client send hello messages and the server also send reply messages, and the client uses the connection and the server also helps to maintain the connection, and the client end the response, server also gives the ending of the response. So like the way series of messages are exchanged by both client and the server. Series of messages are exchanged by both client and the server. But to making the communication with the help of series of messages, they are maintaining some fields. They are maintaining some fields. So all these fields, like what is the type of message? So each message has three fields. So what are those fields? Type of message. What type of message is going to communicate between the client and the server? And what is the message length? What is the message length? So length of the message, how much data of the message has to be transmitted, how much data of the message is to be transmitted. The next, content. So content of the data, the parameters associated with this message. So what is the content exactly sending the message? What is the content exactly sending the message? So these are the three types, these are the three fields that are having for sending of any message in between both client and the server. So the first one is what? Type, which contains only one byte field, and it indicates one of 10 messages. It indicates that what? One of 10 messages. And list the defined message type. So we are listing out all the messages types. So what type of message you are going to send, what type of message you are going to receive. And the second one is what? Length. So 3 bytes field. So it is a length 3 bytes field. The length of the message in bytes. Length of the message in bytes. And content. So content, it doesn't have any size of the bytes. So it is by default 0 bytes. And the parameters associated with this message. The parameters are associated with this message. So to sending the series of messages, each message having a type of it, each message having a length of it, and each message having some content of it. So because of all these, the three fields are occur in the handshake protocol. With that only, the client and the server can able to maintain the connection by handshake protocol. So here we can understand that the handshake that indicates that what client and server both are ready to communicate together. Both are ready to communicate together. Initially, they are started with a conversation like a client hello, and the server also gives hello. Server also gives hello as a response. So from this hello message, they are going to initiate the communication from both client to server. From both client to server. So here, what are the message types actually? What are the different types of message types in between the client and the server? What are the different types of message clients in between both client and the server? So here, the client messages types are having here the message type and parameters. Message type and parameters. So here, the message type. First one is what? Hello request. Hello request, which is the message type done by both client and the server, which is done by both client and the server. So hello request. So that doesn't have any parameters, so which is having null parameters, And the second one is what? Client hello. Client hello. So client hello indicates that what? Client may able to communicate with the server as a connection. So with the help of client hello, it is started to establish the connection between both the client and hello. So it takes the parameters like version of the message, version of random, session ID, cipher suit, compression methods. These are all the parameters that are implemented, that are having in the message type of hello, client hello. And the second one is what? Server hello. Second one is what? Server hello. Once the client hello is requested by the client, then server able to gives the response with the server hello, as like we seen in this previous slide. So if client gives a hello request, then server also gives hello request. So it is also having the parameters like version, random, session ID, cipher suit, compression methods. All these methods are having this message type. And next one, certificate. So certificate, is that establishment of the connection is having a digital certificate or verification of the certificate. So if it is valid, if the certificate is valid, then server and client can have the communication to be long. Or else if the certificate is not valid, their connection is to be aborted. Their connection is to be aborted. So which is having a chain of X.509 version 3 certificates. And next one, server key exchange. Server key exchange. So if it wants to exchange any keys like cryptographic encryption keys, so client sends some keys and server also sends some keys. So to exchange that keys to display the contents on the server or either client side, they have to use these keys for server key exchange as well as client key exchange also. Server key exchange and client key exchange also. So once the client exchanged their key, then server also gives the exchange of their key. So which is having the type of parameters and signature. Parameters and signatures. The next, certificate request. Certificate request. So once the client and server connection is established, server requesting that client to certificate, show the certificate. If it is valid, then will maintain the communication. If the certificate is not valid, then we'll go for aborting the connection. So like that, the server is going to requesting for the client a server certificate request. So which contains the parameters like type of certificate and the authorities. Who are the certificate authorities? And next one, server certificate verify. Certificate verify. So once a client sends that certificate, the server is verified that certificate is valid or not. It checks the validation with the help of the signature, digital signature. With the help of this digital signature, the certificate is going to be verified, which is generated by certificate request. So once the certificate is requested by the client, the certificate is verified by the server if and only if the digital signature is verified. Digital signature is verified. And next one, server done. Server done. So that means if all the messages of all the cryptographic keys exchange and if all the certificate is to be verified, then the server gives the responses with the server done. Server gives the responses with the server done. So that means whatever the whatever the requests are made by the client, all the requests are given responses by the server. So now server sends a lot of responses with for the client requests, then server is going to be done. And last one, finished. Last one, finished. So once the client and the server communication is established and processed and used, then after doing all the tasks, the server is going to be shut down the connections or aborting the communication. At that moment, the status is going to be in finished state. So finished is nothing but after sending all the requests and responses or communicating the process, the server is going to be aborting the connection. So that is the indication with the help of finished. The end of the with the help of the finished. So this is the process how the client and the server initiate the communications with the help of different types of messages. So these are all the messages like client hello, server hello, and certificate, server key exchange, certificate request, server hello done, certificate, client key exchange, certificate verify, the next is change cipher spec, then next finished, and change cipher spec and finished. So these are all the message types which we are discussed in this previous slide. So these are all indicates that what message type. So client and server communicating with the help of these handshake message types. So these are all we can call it as what handshake message types. Handshake message types. So before sending these all the messages types, we can say that we can call it as a handshake operations also. We can call it as handshake operations also. But along with these message types only we can perform these operations. Along with these message types only we can perform the operations. So to sending all these message types, to performing all these operations, what are the phases that are having in between the client and the server? What are the phases that are having the between client and the server? So the phase one is what? First one, establish security capabilities. First one is what? Establish security capabilities, including protocol version, session ID, so protocol version, session ID, cipher suit, compression method, and mutual random number, and initial random numbers. Initial random numbers. So the phase one, it is establishing all the different security capabilities. So what are those security capabilities? Including protocol version, session ID, cipher suit, compression method, and initial random numbers. Initial random numbers. So making that the communication is started in between the client and the server, they has to establish their security capabilities. They has to establish their security capabilities. So those are the security capabilities we have to establishing first. And in the second phase, the server may send certificate. The server may send certificate, key exchange, and request certificate, and server signals end of hello message phase. Server signals end of message. So server sends. So once this establishment of security capabilities in between both client and the server may send certificate, key exchange, and request certificates also. So here the server signals end of hello message phase. And next third phase, client send certificate. So in the second phase, server send certificate, which is requesting for the client, which is requesting for the client. Now third phase, client send certificate if it is requested. So which is requested by the server. So now client sends certificate which is requested by the server, and the client sends key exchange. Client sends key exchange, and the client may send certificate verification also. Client may send certificate verification also. So if server asking to send that certificate, the client sends certificate request certificate, and as well as client sends key exchange to verify the certificate also. To verify the certificate also. So verification of the certificate which is sent by the server and client. So the certificate verification has to be done in the phase 3. And the phase 4, change cipher suit and finish handshake protocol. Change cipher suit and finish handshake protocol. So after changing all the cipher specifications or cipher suits, the handshake protocol communication process is completed. Then they are aborting with the help of finished messages. The help of finished messages. So here shaded transfers are optional or situation dependent messages that are not always being sent. If it is requested, if certificate is requested, then they can send. If the key exchange is requested, then they can able to change. So here, how they are maintaining, how they are completing this all the phases with their message types. So initially, the client sends hello message to the server. So initially, the client sends hello message to the server. And the second one, the server sends hello message to this client. Second, server sends hello message to this client. That means the request is generated by the client is followed with the server response. With the server response. That server response is what? Server hello. Server hello. And then next, server is requesting for certificate. Server is requesting for the certificate to the client. Server is requesting to the client for the certificate verification. And the server sends key exchange also. Server sends key exchange also. The next certificate request also. Server sends key. The next server sends request also. The next server hello done. That means the server initiate the connection with the hello message as well as certificate request message as well as certificate. So with all these server communication process is done. Now it is the it is the status of client sends request, client sends responses. So how client sends responses for the server requests. So here the client send certificate which is requested by the server, and the client sends key exchange also. Client sends key exchange also. The next client verified with the certificate. Client verified with the certificate which is requested by the server. And then next change cipher spec. Change cipher spec. So which you want to change the keys, encryption keys, then it is possible to change it. And client send finish. So I am sending my keys to you. Then from my side the setup is completed. So it is saying like that. And the server phase, it has to be sent change cipher specific. The next it is going to be finished. It is going to be finish the state. So like the way handshake protocol action will be performed with the help of these phases, with the help of these handshake message types, with the help of these handshake message types. So here we'll see exactly how it is going to be establishment of the connection in between both client and server. So here we'll see which is encrypted part. This is all encrypted part, which is application data, which is all encrypted part, and this is all unencrypted part, which is all unencrypted part. So here client and here the server. So now client sends request, client send request to the server with a hello message. Client send request to the hello message. So which is the phase one having establishment of security capabilities, which is having security capabilities, maintaining security capabilities. So what are those supporting ciphers? Random numbers and session IDs and SNI, serial numbers of index. So which are all security capabilities, producing at the client side. Now sends message to the server. Now server gives response to this client with the help of those security capabilities like selected cipher, random number, session ID, and SNI, serial number index. So which is both initiate the connections, both client hello and server hello. So initiate the connection between client and server with the client hello and server hello. And then next the server asking client to send the certificate also. Server requesting to the client produce the certificate. And next server hello done. So server hello done. So with the help of these all the messages, now client gives the responses with the help of key exchange message. So client sends key exchange which is encrypted pre-master secret, So the next it generates the key. It generates the key. The same way the server also generates the key for changing cipher suit. So once the key is generated at the client side as well as at the server side, here the client sends a change cipherspec to the server. So client is requesting server to change the cipher specifications. Now the client finish their messages with the key generations and requesting to the server to change the cipherspec. Now server also requesting to the client changing cipher specific. Now I can change this change the encryption key. Now the task is finished. So after exchanging their keys from the client side to server side, the data which is transferred in between the both client and the server is automatically converted into encrypted data. So now the data is encrypted. And which is privacy maintained and authenticated data. So these are all the phases that are covering in the handshake protocol messages. So these are all the messages: client hello, server certificate, server hello done, client key exchange message, key generation, change cipherspec, finished, application data. These are all These are all indicates that what handshake. These are all indicates that what handshake protocol message type. So these all the message types. These are all the protocol message types are to performing handshake message actions. Handshake message actions. So without having these message types, the client and server cannot able to communicate with each other. Client and server cannot able to communicate with each other. So like the way they are establishing the phases with that handshake protocol message types, they are performing handshake protocol operations. They are performing handshake protocol operations. So we'll see here the what are the phases that the initial exchange needed to establish a logical connection between both the client and the server. So establishing a logical connection between both client and the server. The next, the exchange can be viewed as four phases. First one is what establishing security capabilities. Establishing security capabilities. And the second one is what server authentication and key exchange. Server authentication and key exchange. And the third one, client authentication and key exchange. Client authentication and key exchange. And the fourth one, once the keys are exchanged from client to server, automatically the communication is going to be finished. Automatically the communication is going to be finished. So these are all the phases that are implementing to performing handshake protocol messages action. Handshake protocol operation or handshake protocol messages action. So see, once again we revise the topic which we discussed in this session. So here the first one is what is meant by handshake protocol. So which is a part of transport layer security, which is a part of transport layer security. And here the handshake protocol implements handshake operations with the help of message types. With the help of message types. The help of message types only, which is possible performing operations. So what the message contains actually? What are the fields that message contains? So each and every message contains its own type of the message and its own length of the message and its content of the message. And so initially they are started with the client and server hello connections. Initially they are started with the client and the server hello connections. So these are all the messages. These are all the message types which are performing handshake protocol operations. Like what hello request, client hello, server certificate, server key exchange, certificate request, and server done, and a certificate verify, and a client key exchange finish. So in this, some of the messages are initiate the connection, some of the messages are verifying the certificate, and some of the messages are exchanging the keys. So along with all the message types and the parameters. And here the phases, how the phases are implemented with the help of message types. So first phase is what? Establishing security capabilities. That security capability includes what? Protocol versions, session IDs, cipher suit, compression methods, and initial random numbers. So in the second phase, server send requests, server send certificates, server done. And phase 3 is what? Client send certificates and validation of the certificate. And the fourth one is what? Changing their cipher suits and finishing the handshake protocol options. And here some of the shaded messages are optional. So they may required if it is required. They may required if it is required. And here we'll see all the messages actions will be performed based on the message types. Once they are changing their cipher, they are changing their exchange keys. They are changing their change cipher keys. Automatically the data is converted into the encrypted form, which is application data. So these are all the phases that we are performing in the handshake protocol messages action. So that's all about handshake protocol message actions and the handshake protocol message types. Thank you all.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.